Right after F comes G, of course, and that will allow you to repeat the last command that you executed. And Shift G, or uppercase, allows you to use the mouse position for that last command. So in the case of our container ship here, I can duplicate this object. We'll just hit Control D and move that along. And if we go to the Edit menu, you can see this Repeat Duplicate. That's the Shift G. If I just hold down the G key, or hit the G key rather, it will duplicate that item just by executing the duplicate. But if I hit Shift G, and actually let's make this container ship live because I want to duplicate these guys on top of the deck of my ship. If I hit Shift G, it's going to duplicate whatever object that I have selected right underneath my cursor. So that's a really handy way of populating a space with a lot of objects in sort of a random, quick fashion. The H hotkey is up next, or in this case, the Shift H hotkey. H is not actually assigned to a command, however, it does bring up a marquee menu. So let's take a look at that. Earlier I showed you the menu sets that were accessible from the status line, and that also reflects in the lower bar of the hotbox. So right now we're on the polygon menu set, and if you look down at the lower bar of the hotbox, that mimics or duplicates the menus that you see at the top of the window. So if I hold the H key down and left mouse button in the window, you can see that I can switch really quickly between my animation menu sets, dynamics, polygons, and so forth, and that changes that lower bar to match the selected menu set that you see up at the top of the menus. Shift H just brings up hidden objects. So in this case you can see we've got some hidden objects illustrated by this light gray color, and if I hit Shift H, it just displays those selected objects. So again, pretty handy hotkey to have. In this next example, I'm going to use the I hotkey to set up your own hotkey that turns off an existing hotkey setup to make it a little easier to use. So we're going to look at inserting a keyframe in the graph editor using I, as well as uppercase I, which turns on view selected. So if we take a look at how view selected works in the viewport, if I select my object here and hit Shift I, the object is isolated and everything else is hidden in the scene. The problem is there's no real easy way to turn it back on except to go back up to the show menu, and you can see in the hotbox this second menu bar mimics what's in the panel. We can turn off view selected. So that sort of defeats the purpose of having the hotkey and having it quickly accessible. So I'm going to set up a counter control key so that Shift Control I brings back everything. So we'll just go into the hotkey editor that we looked at earlier, and you can see that if I hit Shift I in the query section, this gives me the command, or the command as well as the category that it's in. So we can look at miscellaneous and easily scroll down to select isolate. And what I want to do is use control as a modifier along with that to bring it back. So what I'll do is just select all of the command that is associated with isolate select. We'll copy it and click on the new button and paste it down below here. And we'll just call this one select ISO off. And it'll just say this turns off view selected. So from here, all we have to do is change the command a little bit. Right now, basically what it does is it looks to see if the list of selected objects is greater than 0, and if it is, turn it on. Well, in this case, I'm just going to turn it off regardless. So we'll hit false, and it says else. If it's something other than greater than 1, then it turns it off anyway. So from here, we'll just click on accept, and then I'm just going to click on assign, and now my Control Shift I, let's make sure we've got it there, is assigned, if we hit the query button, to isolate is ISO off from the miscellaneous section. So we'll save that. It's going to warn me that it's already assigned, but or not assigned, but I need to restart Maya, but that's not necessarily the case. And now when I hit Control Shift I, it brings everything back in the scene. So that's a handy way of using the hotkey editor to sort of add to or augment an existing hotkey. What I'm going to do next is actually use I along with J and K to illustrate an example of just setting some keyframes on our ship. So we'll go back and hit Shift I to isolate select our ship, and I'm going to bring up the graph editor just by holding the hotbox down and going to the north marquee menu and dividing my panels up into a perspective and graph layout. I'm going to hit Shift M to turn off my panel menus, and from here all I have to do is to set some keyframes is first off we'll go to to frame 1. Now notice I don't have my time slider or my range slider up. All I have to do is hold the K key down and drag left to get to frame 1. I don't have to be in the graph editor either. I can also drag left and right in the viewport, so that's pretty handy. From here I can just hit Shift E. I'll bring up my rotation manipulator by hitting the E key. I'm going to hold the J key down to snap over to one side. We'll scrub forward in time using the K key again. Hit Shift E in that location. Now in this case I just noticed that I've got auto keyframing turned on, so let's rotate this guy back in another direction. You can see my keyframes update there. And we'll rotate over to this side. And we'll go forward a little bit further. This boat's going to be rocking really quickly. And we'll rotate it again. So hitting the A key frames all my curves in. And now if I wanted to add some extra keyframes, all I'd have to do is select the curve that I want to add the keyframes into, hold the I key down, and middle mouse button click anywhere I want a new keyframe to show up. So that's how easy it is to use the I, J, and K keys together.